Welcome to Kicking It with KO in partnership with Jackson Ultima. Today I'm so excited to be joined by the lovely and artistic Michelle Long. Well, hello. Let's just start from the beginning. So how did you discover skating and what made you want to do it?
I was, I think, maybe 2 years old the very first time I was on skates. My dad was a hockey player, so naturally they just kind of took me to public skating at the arena in town, and I loved it. I never wanted to get off. I was always the first kid on the ice, and my dad would always have to carry me off before the Zamboni would chase me. So I was on quite early, but I didn't start taking lessons until I was about 4 years old. And then from there, my love of the sport just grew.
That's wonderful. Up to now, what is your most memorable or what are your highlights in skating?
The first one that comes to mind was qualifying for my first national championships. Um, just a little background, I was 18 years old, making the decision whether or not to quit skating or to pursue a education at a university, or if I wanted to continue my skating. Now, keeping in mind, I was just a novice level, middle of the pack at the provincial level. I made it my goal that I wanted to compete at a national championship. So 4 years later, I was 22 years old, and I qualified for my first national championships. It was in Montreal, at the Skate Canada Challenge, and I had actually placed fourth overall. So not only did I qualify, but I exceeded my expectations. I will never forget that moment. I was seventh place going into the event, seventh after the short, seventh after the long, and just having that, I made it. This is exactly what I wanted to accomplish.
That's wonderful. What are some more goals that you have for skating? So what do you want to further with it?
As an older skater, I'm very goal driven. I think that I have always said, if I'm not improving in this sport, then that might be a decision time to step away. But I do have a lot of things that I still want to accomplish with this sport. And I think, if anything, the last 3 seasons has really shown that anything is possible. I do want to be on that national podium. To represent the country at the highest level, I think is such a achievable goal, and I'm so close to it.
Speaking of you being an older skater, I find that really inspirational, especially as our sport keeps getting younger.
Yes.
What do you think you bring as an advantage as an older skater?
I think one of the major advantages that I realized quite early on is that I never had to go through that growth spurt of relearning new jumps. I find a lot of the younger athletes do have challenges, especially when they're identified as this early talent, and then they're unable to maintain that level that they had when they were younger because their bodies change. It's natural. It's something that happens to every person. And it's just really hard for a lot of the younger skaters. So me knowing that I didn't have to go through that hurdle really played to my advantage in my older years. I do have to say, though, it came with its own bag of challenges, definitely, because I had to learn these jumps in my 20s. And fear is a real thing when you're older. And if you fall, you might really actually hurt yourself. The other thing I would say is my maturity in terms of my performance. I think that that's really been a strength of mine, being able to perform, emote, share my love of skating that really comes through in a performance rather than just focusing on the technical portions, which you find a lot of the younger skaters do.
Yeah, it's incredible. And your artistry, it's definitely something special. Going on to this year. This year has been weird. Have you been able to deal with it?
Well, this year has definitely been one that I never thought I would ever have to experience in my career. Being off the ice for 3 months, 2.5 months, 3 months, however long it was back in March, was extremely difficult. I think that we were really fortunate to have our season end last year with nationals. So it almost felt like it was a natural time to take a break. Staying positive was definitely a challenge, but it was something that, like I said, I was goal oriented. I still am very goal oriented. So I was making schedules every day, what I was going to do. I was scheduling workouts. I was getting outside. I got to see you outside rollerblading. We caught up. We did dance classes. So things like that made it tolerable. But definitely getting back on the ice was the best part of it all. And I really actually have to say, like, a big props to Skate Canada and Skate Ontario for allowing us to have those virtual competition experiences. So we actually had something to train for.
I know it's weird not actually seeing your competitors until a couple of weeks later, not knowing your scores until a couple of weeks later, and also not having an audience or being able to visually see your judges, because I know those are all factors of competing.
Absolutely. Actually, I think that was probably the hardest part. I felt more like training when I was out there, but you still get those nerves as if you are competing. So being out there on the ice on your 6-minute warm up by yourself, that was a new experience. And then having that, you're usually looking at judges, you're usually looking for the camera, you're usually looking for something or someone. I could just see my coach running back up and down. He was running, that's all I could see. Not something we're used to again, but
I would love to see Rob running up and down the ice.
It's pretty funny.
So I'm trying to find the positives in this year, because it's really hard for a lot of people to stay motivated and positive right now. So what is something that you've grown to appreciate more now that you may have taken for granted for in the past?
Ooh. I think that real family time. We sometimes take that for granted because, you have to go home for the holidays, you have to see your family. But now more than ever, when we're not able to have that human connection, I think that's something that a lot of us have taken for granted. I don't live with my parents, so for me, especially this year, that's been a little bit more challenging than I'm used to. And then I guess taking that time to slow down, that was a real big wake-up call that happened right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I think that adopting that lifestyle of building in rest time and building in other hobbies, other interests. What do you actually want outside of the sport? What else interests you besides skating? I think the silver lining in this whole pandemic and world of uncertainty is our families. Who do we have to rely on? And then what are those other interests that we have outside of the sport to make us just better, well-rounded human beings? And I think at the end of the day, that's skating's a huge part of a lot of our lives, but it's not the only part. So really shedding the light on those other connections and those other interests that we have.
That's great. Last question. You are a strong competitor and also a great coach. So what is your advice for some young skaters?
Ooh. Never give up. I think it's so cliche to say it out loud, but I didn't necessarily know what my goals were when I was younger. But when I was 18 and I couldn't make that decision to quit skating, I thought I have to make a goal and I'm not going to give up until I get it. And it seemed foolish at the time because not many people were doing what I decided to do, but never give up on your goals and dreams, because at the end of the day, you're going to be happy putting the time and work in to get you to where you want to go. If you were to miss out on an opportunity, you only have yourself to blame. So never give up on your dreams, go for what you want, be excited about it, push hard, train hard, work hard. And be excited and enthusiastic about it. I mean, I think that really encompasses my story as an athlete, but just never give up.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Caitlin.